watching like hetero people mate is like watching the Discovery Channel.
But I do think that every relationship doesn't have to be like a genuine friendship connection. Like some relationships are transactional, and that's okay.
I don't have time to kind of convince people that the people that I love and the person that I am should exist.
If you've been told you're not welcome in a space enough times, you stop trying to go there.
I hate the rainbow. Please, can we find other colors?
Hey guys, welcome to Too Personal. I'm Joy Taylor. Thanks so much for joining us again this week. Make sure that you hit subscribe if you haven't already and follow us on our socials at Too Personal Show. Very exciting show today. We have Ryan Mitchell, aka the Slay God. He is an entertainment host, culture critic, and the NFL's first LGBTQ plus brand ambassador. And we had a great conversation, which we will get to later. So make sure that you stay around and check that out. Loved talking to Ryan. But first, of course, we have to have our rant for this week. And in case you were one of the best of us and were hiding out in the mountains somewhere without the internet, you've just learned that over the weekends, at our Supreme Leader, President Trump's order, the U.S. forces directly entered the Israel-Iran conflict and launched airstrikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. And on Monday, Iran and Israel agreed to a U.S.-brokered ceasefire, with Iran halting strikes immediately and Israel set to follow within 12 hours, aiming to end nearly 2 weeks of escalating violence. So that's a short recap of us being on the brink of World War III, which was really super fun as we head into the summer. And, we just haven't seen a moment of peace since this new regime took over. And it has been a trickle of one exhausting news story to the next. And at this point, if you're a millennial, we're basically just functioning off of emotional fumes at this point. I honestly don't remember a time in my life where I wasn't being completely managing just a ridiculous amount of emotions and fear from the ridiculous choices that our leaders have made time and time again, which spill over into the next administration, and so on and so forth. But what's going on right now is particularly exhausting because we have this stream of social media news where we'll have like a get ready with me and then a sports story and then the pending apocalypse. And this particular move by this administration is extra horrifying considering they did not go through any of the normal procedures that you're supposed to go through as an elected leader of this country. Like, I don't know, get congressional approval to start a war. And every day that this goes on and every day it gets more intense and every day it gets more unconstitutional and every day it feels like we're being dragged into this mess of old angry men and their egotistical plans. And I gotta say, I don't know how many young people are signing up for this one. I don't know how many young people are interested in these particular kinds of wars. And I think social media will play an extra important role in how these type of conflicts play out. It's a different time than it's been in years past, where propaganda obviously is still extremely powerful. Otherwise, this man would not be in office to begin with. However, the ways that they used to control media and control the ideas and purposes behind wars are pretty over, because now that the entire planet has social media and the entire planet has the internet, and we can point a camera in any direction and record and share what is actually happening in real time, it very much dispels the ideas of fear-mongering and control in ways that it hasn't in years past. For example, we had some protests here in Los Angeles because of ICE a few weeks ago. And while the news did a pretty good job of making it seem like the whole of Los Angeles was burning to the ground, all of us here in Los Angeles who were not directly in the center of downtown Los Angeles were very willing to share that we were going about our lives as normal and that there were not tanks rolling down the streets of Beverly Hills, because there were in fact not tanks rolling down the streets of Beverly Hills. Now, while it was intense and there were curfews and there was quite a bit going on and we all took it very seriously, if you weren't in downtown LA, you were not involved in the conflict that was going on in downtown LA. For those of you who don't know, Los Angeles is a massively huge city, one of the biggest in the world. And it's more and more difficult to control people's brains in reality when they can walk out their door, record, and share what's happening in real time when you're trying to tell blanket stories. And I say all that to say, there's always been different versions of wars. There's always been different versions of conflicts. In the end, we find out that it really was generally about a few leaders' egos and not really about anything that they pitched to the communities or to the countries or to the world. This time around, I will be very interested to see how they package and brand these conflicts, because all of us are paying attention. This is a global economy. We have the internet. We have permanent history there that they cannot erase or control. And everyone has the ability to share their voice whenever they so please on social media. So we'll see how they try and brand and pitch this one. But to all of you out there that are exhausted, I am there with you. On top of course, inflation and having to pay bills and rent and everything else that is completely out of our control. It seems that we are just stuck in this whirlwind of insanity. And I gotta be honest, for those of you who put us in this spot, I will never forgive you. Oh my God. I will never forgive you. All this, you can come to Jesus, you can absolutely learn your lesson, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna fuck with you after you learned your lesson. You're clearly too stupid to be having conversations with me. So this is your fault. And I do not forgive you. That's for other better people than me, because it's not me. All right, it's time to get to our friend, Ryan Mitchell. So excited to have this conversation. All right, I'm so excited to have Ryan Mitchell, AKA the Slay God, with me now on Too Personal. Ryan is an entertainment host, culture critic, and co-host of the podcast High Key. So make sure that you go and subscribe and check out High Key. Ryan, welcome to Too Personal.
Oh my God, thank you. Are we about to get personal?
Well, I hope so.
Okay, let's do it. Get into my business.
So. All right, well, let's start with everybody's business, because I feel like this is something all of us are dealing with, and I'm trying to find a way to navigate not disassociating, because
that's my favorite D word.
Yes. It's not mine.
I mean, there's plenty of D words I can think of. But that's one at the top of my list.
That I enjoy. But sometimes you have to default to disassociate as your favorite D word.
Yes.
Some alliteration there for you. How are you dealing with not disassociating? Or is that something that you think is healthy sometimes?
Honestly, I think it's healthy right now for me, because I can get very overstimulated. I can get very overwhelmed. And I think sometimes you need to keep your peace at whatever cost. And honestly, at the intersection of my identities that I exist in, it's too much going on. And so sometimes if I want to watch Love Island and not think about what's going on MSNBC, I'm going to do that. And I think that's very important, because how can we continue to push through and find the strength to get to the next moment if we're just kind of being boggled down with all of this stuff that's going on in the real world? It's a lot going on. So I am actually very much pro disassociation.
So I am an extremist by
Mark,
nature.
Love that about you. What's your zodiac sign?
Oh, gosh, Capricorn.
That's my rising. So I get you. Sorry.
Yeah. It's on or off for me. And I'm working on that, but it is a struggle. I'm very much an extremist. So I'm either very, very involved, or I'm this is somebody else's problem. Get somebody else to do it.
That's so real.
And I've really recently found it's get somebody else to do it. But also, I think Black women decided we were getting somebody else to do it after this election. We were okay, the cape is being folded. We'll put it up there.
Sure.
This is someone else's problem. We will be having brunch at this moment.
With unlimited mimosas.
Unlimited.
Actually, unlimited.
Bottomless is not enough. Change to unlimited. Bottomless is not the right word. It needs to be unlimited.
That's so real. That's so
unlimited mimosas.
Yeah.
No, but I feel guilty, though.
Yeah.
I feel guilty. And then I like to read, and I'm reading books that are very deep and historic, because that's my thing, because I just, I can't give myself a moment of peace even in reading. And then I feel the ancestors are kind of girl.
Because they will. They will
You have
tap
an
you on the shoulder.
iPhone. You have air conditioning. Okay. You have a bank account.
It's you're privileged.
Can you please stop? All you have to deal with is this one crazy man in office that we all had to deal with. The only difference is he's orange. Like what?
And a full-on
I mean,
supremacist.
our first orange president, that is something.
That's crazy. Actually, I want to leave now. I hate thinking about anything orange. I actually hate the color orange now.
Not a,
Thanks for ruining it.
I'm not a big orange person either. No, I do. Sometimes I do. I feel guilty. I feel
Yeah.
like the ancestors are kind of like, you guys are weak.
No, I mean, here's the thing. I think I actually just was having a conversation on high key about this, about feeling guilty that I'm not necessarily one of those people that are about to hit the streets running. I think about like 2020 and everybody was in like protesting.
Were you in
and
the streets in 2020?
I was picking and choosing when I was in the streets because there was also, we were living in COVID. Like it was
Right.
too much going on even in that time. And I also was kind of going simultaneously having to be the only Black queer voice on a radio station that was all like queer white people.
Mhm.
And I felt like I had to talk for our entire community. And so for me, I was like, is it important for me to be in the streets right now? Or is it important for me to like rest and then like talk about white supremacy over the airwaves?
Yeah.
And I feel like I was able to um, think about like, okay, what am I good at? How can I show up? I show up behind a mic. I love having conversations. I love interviewing experts and giving them the platform to really educate us and me. And so I was like, there was moments where I did feel like guilty about like not being out in the streets and like holding my protest sign. But girl, sister, sometimes like people should mind their business as well as like know where they fit in. And I think for me, I know I fit in behind a mic. I know I have the privilege and the range of being able to talk about the things that are like bothering me and like being the voice of the people. And I think that's where I should be instead of being out in the streets.
Yeah, and there's kind of a guilt associated with when you have a mic
Yeah.
of always having to talk about and represent your community
For sure.
as well. I will say I was in the streets in 2020. I am not in the streets right now.
Yeah.
I'm taking a respite from the streets.
Yeah.
As far as the protesting is going, the rest of the streets we'll see. But
You're like, I'm not saying no to all,
not
the,
all
streets.
the streets.
I'm on a different corner
Certain
of the street.
certain streets. But I think that you're right. Like everyone doesn't have to show up with a sign in a protest in
Yeah.
order to contribute to movements. And I think sometimes we can get put in positions where we feel a guilt, like, okay, I'm not out there. How am I participating? But you're using the power that you have. Like
Yeah.
some people physically cannot go and protest, so they share on their social media, or
Yeah.
they will definitely lose their job if they do something like that. So they donate or support in other ways. Like I think there is a multitude of roles that are played in movements that aren't always front facing, front lines
Yeah.
type of work.
And if I'm being honest, like my mom lives like miles away. She lives in a different state. She's a single mother, raised me. I'm her only child. And oftentimes, anytime she sees something that is LA, even if it's like in the valley, she's like, oh, that's you. That's right in your backyard. And so a lot of times I feel like I'm trying to also calm her in a lot of ways, calm
Mhm.
her and my grandmother from freaking out. I mean, the fires, like LA hasn't had a chance to really breathe if you really think about it.
No, she
We
hasn't.
we had COVID, we had the strikes, we had the fires, and now we have everything that's going on right now. Like we are still grieving so much. And I think a lot of times being out in the streets, like I'm God's favorite warrior, but I might not be his strongest. And I might have to be strong in other ways.
God has forced me into being the strongest, but I'm
Well, that's also
I'm
you as a Capricorn.
rapidly trying to decline this role. Decline, send back, reverse, unsubscribe. Yeah, no, I feel that every time something happens in LA, my mother does the same thing. Like
Girl.
everyone does. This honestly though, the recent protests, I've had to be like, hey guys, I love you and I love that you're concerned for my safety. That's important to
Yeah.
me. However, you have to understand.
You gotta relax.
You've got to relax. You've got to understand how big Los Angeles is.
Yes.
It's Los Angeles. It's this much space is being occupied in
And
this
that's
situation.
what irritates
Like
me though. Like
I'm literally in Beverly Hills having brunch right now.
Which-
The same as I always am.
So
Like
chic
it's
of you.
it's thank you. I love a BH brunch. Yeah, so there is a lot of education and stuff still going on, especially for the city of LA. Like I would agree with
For
that.
sure.
It's been a year, honey. It's been a half a decade. out
Oh my
here.
God. And this is my 10th year in August, will be my 10 years of living in LA. And I have been so like reflective of like just personally and just like the world around. And and just realizing like, oh my God, like what does another 10 years look like here specifically? Do I move? Do I stay? Like I built community here. I don't really see myself living anywhere else. But I don't know. It's just it's a weird, weird time. So I'm just associating doing a podcast like everyone else with bikes.
Yeah, listen, as you should, if you have the
But I got
skills to
some
do it.
sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, not to be clear, not all of you should. Some of you should burn your equipment in a very safe, controlled environment. That being said about California,
Yeah.
what do you think about Newsom? Because
Oh, okay.
he's got a lot to say as of late, which I'm here for. I am here for. He's clearly setting the table for a presidential campaign. But being someone that's lived in LA for 10 years,
Hmm.
I've been in California for 9 years. You know what I feel like happened? We were like, this is our problem. But then when he took on Trump, we were like, oh, no, no, no. Now we with you.
Well,
Like, now we had something to
so
say
that's
and
the
support.
interesting thing about Newsom for me. I feel like he has waves where people really like him
Hmm.
and then waves where they don't.
Correct.
And where he's like kind of stepped in it and like people are like, that is not the white man I'm here to support. And then the next moment you're like, oh yes, that's the only white man that I see in power. But for me, it's like Gavin is kind of a hit or miss for me. Because the way that I saw him recently navigate, especially when he was doing his podcast, that's a man that maybe not should not be on a mic. He was having some guests on there that were like very like conservative and right wing and problematic and very harmful to like LGBTQ issues. And of course, there was a time where he was trying to like really extend a hand to Donald Trump in
Hmm.
a really like, okay, let's try to play the middle. And I think that's the downfall of Democrats, where if you think you're going to be able to be Humpty Dumpty, you're going to fall on the wall. Like you can't sit in the middle. You can't. There's no way of playing the happy medium and then throwing away all your moral compasses just because you're trying to like reach across that's we're just not living in that time
We're not
anymore.
living in that time anymore.
It's
There's
ridiculous.
definitely a time where I wish there was more middle that existed.
Yeah,
But in order for just as far as politics go, because in order to get anything passed or done, you have to have compromise. You have to
yeah,
have people reach across the aisle. Any type
for
of
sure.
significant legislation that's ever been passed has required cooperation from people coming, to the middle to get things done. So that's just how our government works. Works
Our work.
work. Yeah, no, I get it. I do think that all politicians are, they politic. So
For sure. That's why I don't trust
there's
none of them.
right, like that's which you shouldn't.
But I mean, I'm
At this point, I'm
active.
just looking for an alternative to the current climate. What do you think is the biggest issue affecting the queer community right now?
I mean, erasure. We're seeing it in so many different ways. I mean, I have the pleasure of like working with really great organizations. I think a lot of my work is all about building a bridge, being a world connector, especially for brands or for organizations like GLAD, where I help them make sure that there is queer entertainment media, that we are being seen in films, television, heard across airwaves, like, and done in a way that is appropriate and also highlighting the diversity of our community. And I think right now we're seeing a rollback in that from a brand perspective. We're seeing a rollback on that from storytelling perspective. Like less and less trans characters are even um, are even in the stories we're seeing and taking in anymore. And then don't even bring into the intersectional piece of like Black, queer, and trans folks. Like we're non-existent, unfortunately. And so I feel like we're constantly seeing this tiptoeing around what is just our lives and our identity and just being able to see ourselves like representation in a real way. And that's kind of really disappointing and it's really sad because I think brands and companies and studios are all afraid of what the orange man is going to do and how he will retaliate. And now the language is changing where you're not necessarily using DEI, you're saying growth audience. Like, like you have to be smart about the ways you are trying to like Trojan horse everyone in. I mean, this is half of my work with the NFL as their first LGBTQ brand ambassador.
Hmm.
Being able to say like, oh, this organization that people could have very strong opinions about, but I feel like it's still important to have someone inside to be able to to be able to help get the right people in and get them highlighted in the right ways. And I think that's something that is really important for me because Black and trans queer folks already exist in the world of sports. And we have economic value and we deserve to be seen and heard and be celebrated for being in this space.
Okay, so let's talk about your work with the NFL.
Work.
Obviously, I have been around the NFL and sports my whole life. Well,
You're
not
a
the
sports
NFL, but
baddie.
thank you. I do my best. And the NFL, I think, has come a very long way
For sure.
in inclusion across the board. Obviously, being a woman in sports, there's a whole, and I'm positive you deal with this as well, is like this idea of what a sports fan is. And I cannot tell you how many times I've done an interview where they're like, how did you get into sports? Which I'm sure you get. Or, how did you get into football? Or, why do you so opinionated about sports? And like just questions that a straight man would never get asked.
Yeah,
It just
ew.
wouldn't even make sense to
Wow.
ask them that.
0 aura points for bringing up straight men. Sorry,
Sorry.
for anyone in
No,
the audience.
We love our straight men
Well,
in,
do
in,
it.
in the
No.
audience. Yes. We'll talk more about straight men later. But for the sake of this conversation, do you deal with that? Because I deal with that all the time.
Well, the funny thing is, I think my superpower has been able to exist in spaces I have no business existing in, or I've been told I have no business to exist in. And that's a space like the NFL where they actually wanted me because I wasn't a fan. Like I showed up in that space, the Phoenix Super Bowl. I don't know, that was like a while ago.
It was
2022,
2023?
2023?
Years ago?
Yeah, and I was just moderating a conversation with some C-suite execs. CMO Tim Ellis was there, and next thing I know, I'm like making jokes, being like, "Y'all sure y'all called the wrong person to be talking about queer folks in sports?" Like I don't know, but they really appreciated my honesty, and they were like, "Hey, we're actually been trying to focus on how do we bring in more people like you? How do we bring in a community that has historically been told that you shouldn't be allowed to exist and has been this world of like toxic masculinity has kind of been put on that divide."
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, this is an interesting conversation to have because I thought they were just gonna offer me a brand deal. And I was like, well, maybe. Well, maybe. But no, I think for me, it actually opened my brain of like, oh, okay, there's some intentionality here. They just don't know what to do and they want to authentically do it. And so how can I help them build that bridge? Because ultimately you need someone with the cultural currency to really even like get the attention of the folks. Because NFL loves to be like, it's the NFL. It's us. Of course, everyone's gonna love us. I'll be like, girl, it don't matter.
Right. Well, also, like, if you've been told you're not welcome in a space enough times, you stop trying to go there.
Absolutely. And like, that's the thing that I've done this work for about 2 seasons. And my first season was really about like understanding what this world was and understanding like, oh, is there a space to even really connect with like the fans that already exist? And when they announced the response was otherworldly. I mean, my first kind of like first family was the 49ers. Complicated history, but their fans are absolutely incredible. And then they found out that the league was actually actively doing something like this. It changed everything. And so I was able to come back and understand like, oh, how can I now bring in the folks that have been historically doing this work, have been like working to bridge the gaps? How can I put them on the pedestal and make sure they meet like the NFL execs? And so everybody is like getting highlighted and amplified. And so I created a game day dinner cultural series called The Exchange, and where I basically take Black and queer trans folks to their first football game. And so we did it with the Commanders. There was another one that just happened during World Pride that I'm very proud of. And like so many teams are hopping on board, and it's just creating a space to really highlight the fans that were already there. And I'm so happy that I was able to have a little piece of a little bit of a legacy that's in this like NFL world. Because like, what do you mean I'm watching the NFL? What do you mean I'm watching Hard Knocks now? Like, what does that even mean? Like, why do I know?
Oh no, you've been sucked in.
Oh my God. And that's kind of like where I have always loved culture. I can fall into anything. I mean, Last Chance U, Cheer. I mean, what's the Dallas Cowgirl cheerleading team? I think I can fall into...
Shout out to MJ Acosta Ruiz, a judge.
Yes, I can fall into this world of people like passionate, like athletes and people who are just at the top of their game and find that intersection of being like, oh, I get it. I might not need to watch a game every 5 seconds,
Mhm.
but I can find my entry point, and so can other people if they're being guided in the right direction.
I really love that that was your experience with the NFL because I
No!
feel
Was that not yours?
no. I have a whole other, so it's not really the NFL particularly.
Yeah, it's
Like,
just sports.
yeah, just being a woman in sports is a
And a
whole.
woman of color.
Yes, a black woman in sports who has opinions about sports is a very specific lane that has a bunch of different roadblocks in the way. But the reason I say I love that that's your experience is because so much of you're talking about representation and you're talking about erasure and DEI and we know a lot of companies are fumbling this moment
Oh, absolutely.
dramatically, and even before this moment, just like I don't want to say it's performative activism, a lot of it. And I struggle with it because part of me is like, well, they're trying. So,
Are they?
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I want to have the conversation. Like, are they trying? Are they just trying to get, a specific demographics money
Yeah.
without the actual backing of the activism part? Like,
Yeah.
are you just participating in this holiday? Are you just participating in this moment just from a financial perspective and not an authentic, like, hey, we want
Yeah.
to bring someone in who has social currency in this space, who understands this space, and that is actually ideal because they're not a lifelong fan and they can bring in
Yeah.
a new audience
Yeah.
that we do not know how to reach. And I feel like that's the correct approach for brands to enter into a new space because we know the monetary value
Yeah.
that minority groups bring.
Of course.
So there is a way to do it that isn't performative.
Yeah, and I mean it's so interesting, especially during Pride season that we're currently in right
Yes.
now. There's always been a conversation around like corporate companies in Pride and showing up at the Pride parades and like giving money essentially, right? And then like it was sort of like a negative look. Like it was like, oh, that shouldn't be happening. You're like corporatizing Pride now. But now we're seeing a rollback of that, and now prides are actually struggling. And so
Right.
it's kind of we're sitting at this really interesting like moment in time that is really crucial because funding is going away because these brands are saying, "Oh, never mind, it's not the cool thing to do anymore," and according to like the world and society and what they're trying to get when it comes down to money at the end of the day because capitalism. And so it's just it's really kind of devastating in a way. And I also feel I actually really love that brands are showing us where they are because I think a lot of us already knew that this was just a capitalistic move, right? To try to show up when it was cool and it was like everyone else was doing it and they were changing their profile icons to the rainbow and all the things, which I hate, by the way. I hate the rainbow. It's please, can we find other colors? That's me. That's a me take. That's a me hot take. I actually appreciate because there's no way they're coming back from this. If you kind of disengage from a community that has always been around and has shown up time and time again and like actually like was putting financial like money in your pockets,
Yeah.
there's no coming back from like kind of like the betrayal of the ways that they brands and like companies and corporations are showing up right now. Like there's no way of coming back. We know too much. Like once the door is open, honey, there's no closing it. And I think we're seeing that with Target, with Black folks, and it's going to be an interesting time as we're moving forward because yeah, I host West Hollywood Pride. I have been hosting the music festival for about 4 years now, 5 years actually. And it's always so interesting because you can see like more and more corporations. They're just like, oh, we have this activation. We want to get involved. We want to be a part of the thing. And the really beautiful thing that I enjoy personally about the team that handles like We Hope Pride is like they kind of they kind of stay on like how are you showing up 365,
Mhm.
and I think that's kind of what we have to do. We have to start pushing these brands to be like show us what you're doing 365 and not just this month
But money is important.
for sure, and it will be there
Mhm.
and they will give it. and I will take it. What you mean? I'm always gonna cash a white person's check.
And then that's sort of, I guess, what my
Because we live, unfortunately, in a capitalist society. So what else are we gonna do?
What else are we gonna
do? This is the system
do?
that we live in.
Yeah, I do think it's gonna be an interesting couple of years as far as that goes, because I want to see when the tide turns again, which it will, because it always does.
Always
I mean,
does.
I, feel very, I get the despair sometimes. Like I get the Morbies.
Yeah.
And then I'll talk to like my mother, who like vividly remembers JFK being shot. And she's like, look, we've lived through some things.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, and we thought the world was ending when that happens. And you can have no idea the feeling that was over the country. And like, we never thought we were going to recover. I'm like, okay, I get, there was like the Vietnam War, and there were things going on before we got here that were also unprecedented and hard. And, every generation had their own feeling of this will never end. This will never get better. This will never change.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're regressing in a lot of ways. And we are regressing.
Oh,
we are regressing.
As a queer, as a trans person right now, it's the scariest time to be existing right now. There's so many attacks, from the sports conversation to just existing when it comes to like your identity and travel and all these things. Like it's a very, very scary time. And it's the interesting thing, it's like, it's hitting everybody. Like I just had a conversation on the podcast with Laverne Cox, and she was like, it's being a Black trans woman in show business is completely different. If it's hitting Laverne at her privilege and at the top of the top that she's in, you got to think about that trickle down effect. And it's just, it's really, really a unfortunate time right now. And it's just trying to find the hope to continue and the strength to kind of bear like for what's coming next, because who knows? You don't want to think about what's coming next is the worst, but you got to prepare yourself. Like you got to have the right community around you, because queer folks, we have to exist right now. We have to push back on the notion of trying to be a race. Like the strongest thing, the most important thing we can do is to exist, to show folks we're not going anywhere.
So your circle then, because I know
it's gay.
Gay, yes.
I love it.
Good. Good. For a while I was seeing things on the internet, and people would be sharing their thoughts, and I'm like, I can't imagine having this conversation. Like who are these people?
Oh,
like
girl.
I don't have these conversations in my life, which I think is a testament to me curating my circle very properly, that I don't have to have these moronic conversations. Now, during COVID, we couldn't avoid it. I mean, like everybody got a medical degree overnight. I don't know where they signed up for this shit. But, even if they were people that I loved, I was like, oh my God, like you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Please stop talking to me. I've seen you do coke off a stripper's ass. You should not be giving me any kind of medical advice.
As I said, now, where did that take place, and who was it? Do you have names? I'd love to know more.
Listen, I've seen some things from people that should not be giving out medical advice. Let me just say that. But this circle that you have is during a time like this is very important. But have you had interactions with people where you're just like, or have you had to deal with people who are, say, still Trump supporters? Like, I don't know anyone who is, even if they were or had, like the first Trump election, I knew a lot of people that voted for Trump because they were convinced that this was something different. They were certainly not going to vote for a woman. The second time around is a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people learned the lesson the first time around. But now I don't know. I don't even know. I would have to think of who to call to talk about Trump in a positive way.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even, if I'm being honest, like my world is so surrounded by like queer and trans folks that I'm like, do I have any straight friends? I'm like, maybe.
Well, you have me.
Okay, well, yes. Thank you for being my first. This is groundbreaking.
Oh my God.
This is quite historic.
What an honor. No pressure.
You're the Obama to my Michelle. No, like, yeah, I'm like, I feel like I'm open. There was a time where I would be open to, I would be open to like actually like educating folks. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of my work is about education. But I think at some point, if it's not attached to a check, I might not be giving you free labor. I probably actually won't be giving you free labor because I refuse to talk to a brick wall. So if
Mhm.
I automatically know that your energy and I feel like I have great discernment and I automatically know like, oh, you're asking me these questions because you just want to debate or you think that you know the answer and you're not really willing to listen to any other perspective.
Right.
Oh, sister, hang it up flat screen. I am not dealing with it.
No, because you have to listen.
For
You
sure.
have to listen.
For
And
sure.
that is I think as a communicator,
Yeah.
you know how valuable listening is.
Mhm.
Like when you're somebody who talks for a living, you fundamentally understand that listening is as important as the talking.
Mm.
Because if you're having a real conversation, you can't just be da 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 da.
Yeah.
Like you have to be vibing and understanding what's coming next, not anticipating the next thing, but being in the moment of the conversation.
Yeah.
And that requires that you listen. And even if
Yes.
you don't agree, you have to be able to process that and explain why you don't agree. Not just like, no matter what was coming out of your mouth, I was going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
That person, at this point, again, I don't have these interactions with people, but it's not because I'm not happy to do it. Like
Yeah.
I will go. I'll give the smoke. I
And
have no
that's
problem.
also the thing, like, not every community, like, even though, like, you queer folks or like black people, like we're all not a monolith. So
Correct.
there's like, you know, there's some I won't say bad apples, but there's some people with really interesting thought processes and
That is such a nice way to put it. That is such a kind way to say that.
you know, I got some decorum. I'm
Okay.
demure.
Very demure.
But you know, and so it's I I think we all are. I'm just gonna say it plainly. I don't have time to kind of convince people that the people that I love and the person that I am should exist. I don't have time
Yeah.
to like do that. Like when your lives are on the line, girl, why am I using my breath to like convince you something that you're never going to believe because you've taken the red pill. You're a part of the manosphere.
Mhm.
And so it's just for me, like, you know, I think it's a priority to have those folks who are, like I said earlier, God's strongest warriors and are doing the fight. I know so many people who are part of like NABJ, are part of the Journalists Association, who are like really doing the work of like trying to change what historically the narrative is when it comes to like how queer and trans folks are supposed to be in these spaces and how we're having these conversations. And for me, I think I will always continue to connect with people because I love being a conversationalist. I love getting to know anyone. But there is going to be a moment where I'm like, yeah, getting to know someone takes two to tango.
Mhm.
You have to be interested in getting to know me as much as I'm interested in getting to know you.
Yeah.
And that comes with knowing my full picture and my intersectionality and how I exist in this world at all these beautiful, curvy, fat, black, queer, all these moments that I exist in. That's the connecting piece.
And how is that with dating for you?
Oh, you nosy. Oh my God. Okay, so I just actually I just ended something with someone I was dating. And honestly, shout out to therapy. I told my therapist, like I kind of bragged about myself to my therapist in my last session, being like, sister, I keep charging me 230 because you ate that. I had a great conversation with this man and was very mature and didn't cuss him out in the ways that I knew I would have. And I followed up on, you know, we ended things pretty quickly. And then I was kind of like, well, I got some follow-up questions. and I was able to do that in a very mature um and clear and
Very
communication
demure.
way. Yeah.
Mhm.
And actually it works pretty well. But as far as dating in LA, I don't know, sister. It's difficult. This town we live in is very superficial, especially as a fat person existing. But I'm gorged. That's not the
That's not the
that's
question.
not the question. But I it's there's some trials for sure. There's some hurdles to jump over when it
I
comes to
can't
dating in this
wait to
town.
talk to my therapist this week. I know she's going to tell me I'm right, and it's like
Isn't
like
that the
to
best?
me, it is as good or better than sex to like know that you're
Mhm.
right about something and know that a subject matter expert is
Yes.
about to tell you this,
Yes.
right? Like, oh,
A person with degrees.
I can't wait. They're right behind her. They're right there on the wall. And I'm going to tell her, and she's going to be like, you're right.
I mean, do you feel like, are you at the point of your dating where you feel like liking men is a curse? I kind of feel that way.
What is a plague? It's a plague. Oh my God.
I just, you know,
It's a plague.
If I genuinely could, like, that's how you know it's not a choice. Because if I could, I would be with some really gorge mass stud lesbian. I'd be like, pull out the silicone. I'm down. I am so down, but I'm
Same, sister.
I know.
Same.
The burden of liking men is
Same.
crazy.
It's a curse. It's a plague. I couldn't agree with you more. That's why we're seeing more and more of these memes pop up. Like, if it was a choice, why?
Yes.
If it was a choice, why?
Yes. Like, why would I choose this hard life?
Why would I choose struggle? Do I look like I choose struggle? No, I will say I've had some really beautiful experiences with dating men in LA. I've had some awful experiences dating men in LA. What I think the problem with LA is, and I don't actually know if this is specific to LA, but I think because LA is what she is,
Yes.
it's heightened here.
Yeah.
That people are paralyzed by choice everywhere. Like the apps, the social media, the access to travel,
Yeah.
like people just feel like there are so many options. And that's an illusion. There aren't so many options.
Yeah.
There's no more options than there ever were before. You just have access to more people. You have apps. You have different ways to communicate with, meet people. You have people who are more willing to be outside. Like you can move to another country and date people there. Like there's so many different options. But if you're really looking for love and connection, there aren't that many options.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's rooted in the illusion of what people think LA is.
Yes.
Like, I think this is like the whole transplant of it all. Like when you move to LA and you think you're living a certain life and you kind of maneuver and navigate this city in that way. And I think it's hard to truly want to get to know someone when all you think is like their motives behind you is like, oh, well, what do you do? Like, what, like, how can I share space with you? Like how it just gets very icky and gross. And there's such a
well, the what do you do thing is always it's a normal question to ask.
For
someone
sure,
what they
it
do.
is.
Like
It is.
it is a normal question. But in LA, it's like you have to be specifically strategic about what point in the conversation you ask someone what they do and what the tone is when you ask them that. Like any other place, pretty much anywhere that you ask someone what they do, it would be a normal fucking question to ask.
I've visibly seen people, like when I first moved here, I, at the time, was working in fashion. I was doing some fashion PR. And I also was just kind of like still like serving, trying to like get my footing. I just moved here, didn't know what I was doing. And I remember being at an event and someone asked me, and I like told them, oh, I'm kind of like freelancing this, and but I'm also like just a full-time server right now. And their face changed. I said, did you just call me a slur? The way that their face changed. It was kind of crazy. And so that was like the moment where it clicked for me. It was like, oh, this is kind of what you have to navigate with being here. But for me, I'm a firm believer is like when you find your right community and the right people, oh, this town is everything. Like I don't really even see myself living anywhere else because I have such great friends and community that have come, to be honest, even after COVID is when it like all locked in for me. And I feel like the people that were in my life at one point are no longer there. And I'm like, honestly, great. Thank God. Like it was supposed to be that. And LA is just such a funny town, sister, especially now, like when you're in a position of like, people know you and it's like you're public facing and like, you can be like, oh, yeah, girl, I haven't heard from you in 6 months. Why are you hitting me up all
What
of
do you
a sudden?
want?
Like, what do you need?
But you know, that used to really bother me. But I do think that every relationship doesn't have to be like a genuine friendship connection. Like some relationships are transactional and that's okay.
For sure.
And like I came here to LA with the idea that every relationship needed to be like significant or important or genuine or you know, something more than just a transaction. And now I'm like, no. There are certain relationships that are purely transactional.
Yeah.
Like, I need this from you, you need this from me. thank you, have
Yeah.
a good day. Like,
Yeah.
it's all love,
Yeah.
but we don't need to pretend
Yeah.
like we're gonna go.
Did you have a conversation with them about that, or was it just kind of
No,
like
this is a lot of people. I think like I think
unspoken?
when you are in this business, you kind of start to get the energy from people that you need to get to recognize, is this a real friendship, or is this just a working relationship?
Work.
Is this just a purely transactional relationship that we're going to pretend like we're cool? Is like,
Yeah.
I don't need to call everybody my friend.
Yeah.
This is this person to me. This is that person to me. And that's okay, because I have my circle of people that I trust and love.
Well, I've recently learned about the calling everyone my friend, because I'm a Leo. I'm very like, I can connect very easily. And I think I have an ability to make people like very comfortable and like tell me all their deepest, darkest secrets. And it's like, I've had to like roll back on being like, wait, we are cool, but we might not be like the closest of friends as like you may have thought, or I may have thought. Like, I've had to really adjust who gets the friend title and who doesn't. And that's actually been so interesting for me to work out in real time, because I kind of realized, I was like, oh girl, you're kind of like a friend whore. You just giving it up to everybody. Just giving it up to everybody.
You have to watch people that overshare. They are, particularly when they haven't earned, when you haven't earned the right to the stuff that they tell you.
Yeah.
Like, oversharing is a trap. And
my God,
I'm very wary of it. When people start telling me stuff, I'm like, because I'm the same way, where people will just tell me things that I have no business knowing.
Oh, I love a Capricorn.
And-
Y'all have an ability to get something out of us, and you'll just be sitting there like, wow, what am I supposed to do with this?
I have nothing for you. I'm sorry that happened to you. I don't know. But it's also, at least for me, I don't store things I don't need.
Yeah.
So if someone who I do not like have a really strong relationship with is telling me something too much, I mean, I've literally had someone have a full on meltdown on me, like snot bubbles on my sweater. I had met this woman that day. I was like, why is this happening to me? and if you know me, as Marcos does, like, I am not a huge toucher. Like, oh my God. Human physical connection.
Like, that just gave you the ick.
Unimaginable. And she's like all over me. I'm like, I'm gonna lose my mind. But that does happen though.
Yeah.
And like, you have to be wary of those people, because it's a bit manipulative. Because you don't know me, and don't talk about my trusting energy.
Yeah.
Like, please, you don't know
love
me.
bombing in a way. Like, it's like a
is love
friendship
bombing.
love bombing. And it's, do you?
You don't
That's
love a
kind
love
of
bomb?
crazy to me. I
I
gotta
love
make
a
you
love
work
bomb.
for it. I do love them. Going back to the dating thing, I do love, you can catch me real easy. Like, I'll fall for you if you have great banter. If you can kind of put me like in my place, and kind of like, we can do like a little sparring situation. Playful, not too much, because I'm a sensitive girl.
Not too much of my girl.
But I do love a playful banter. And so like, anybody can kind of like get me to my, well, let me cut. Mind your business.
Listen, but banter is important though. And banter
so needed.
goes such a long way, because nobody does it anymore.
Yeah.
So if you have good banter, like,
is that something that exists with straight men? Like, tell me, because I feel like watching like hetero people mate is like watching the Discovery Channel. It's like, it is. I feel like I've only seen it a few times, and I'm like, oh my God, are they about to like do?
well, listen,
like,
it actually. It doesn't.
Oh,
it
wow.
doesn't. It doesn't very often, and that's why straight men who have good banter do so well. Because I'll speak for myself. I can't speak for all women, but for me, I love to talk.
Work.
And it's not that I love to like tell all my deepest, darkest secrets, but like, I want to get to know somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know how you think, how you feel about things, what's important to you, what are your hobbies, like, how do you spend your day, what's your relationship like with your family? Like, I'll have all that whole same conversation in like one dinner. But I'm also a fucking lot. So I have to be careful that I'm not the interesting one, because I'm interesting. So I'm providing all the interesting, and you're just asking follow-up questions to my interesting.
Where then it just is you doing this show.
Right. And then I'm like, oh my God, like, that was right. I'm like, oh my God, this was such a great conversation. Like, yeah, with myself.
Yeah.
So, so it isn't very often, but it's also about like intentionality. You know, like, I think that good banter in whatever form it is really about like, are you actually interested in talking to me?
True. Because that's also a toxic trait of mine, is like, I can be flirtatious, or my friends, I think I'm just nice. But my friends tell me that it comes off as very flirtatious. So
Are you touchy?
I'm just a girl. I'm just a dainty girl like that.
Yes, but you know that
No,
that there are things.
Yeah, but I don't think of it like that. I just have like an energy about myself that is just like, I know how to make people feel comfortable. So yeah, I might like do like like a hand touch, but I'm not really flirting with you. Like that's the thing. Like I had a whole argument with a friend, not a playful argument, around like a mutual friend that we had. And I have expressed that this person was cute, but I don't actually want them. I can say anybody is cute. But he was like, no, you have flirtatious energy. Like you will like put your hand on their shoulder and I'm like, girl, that's just me being nice on a Tuesday. Like that's not actually me wanting.
Girl.
That's also very Leo. That's very Leo kind of, which by the way, I feel like I need to be specific. I'm a July Leo, not an August, because
Well, that is
period.
important.
Let me put
That's
before
important.
the comments start going off.
That's important. That's important. No, I get accused of flirting, but it's,
Ba-ba-boo.
so I could just there's no way around it.
Yeah,
I've
that's
actually like stopped getting mad about it. I'm like, if I talk to someone,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, like you guys obviously slept together. I'm like, yeah, last night, and his mother too. Because why?
Yeah.
How did this happen? How did it
Yeah.
happen so quickly? How did we get here? But I'm like, when I'm flirting, it's pretty obvious.
And because I'm assuming the type of guy that, maybe I'm assuming too much, the type of guy that you like, do they exist in the spaces that you
Like on planet Earth? No.
Do they exist? Or do they exist in the places that you occupy, like when it comes to work or like in the industry? Like, are you?
Well, no, I think that's like the other part of LA, right? Like, because when you're in the industry,
Yeah.
like you're around all the same people.
That's so true. It's
You know,
your
like so it's
cousin.
like right.
It's literally
And then everybody
like,
knows everybody, and
Yeah.
like it's a huge business. But
Yeah.
I describe the entertainment industry as like a big ass high school.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Like
For
there's
sure.
like this clique,
Yeah.
and that clique,
Yeah.
and then there's like the rich kids,
For
there's
sure.
like the indie kids,
Yeah.
there's the artsy
gay
kids,
theater
the gay
kids.
theater kids, the jocks, like there's the documentarians,
Yeah.
like there's there's the James Camerons, like there's so many different like things, but everyone knows each other and
Yeah.
everyone is interconnected.
Yeah.
And anywhere you go out in this city, you're just gonna meet other people from the business or adjacent. So that's just how it works.
So
when it's
what?
in
You want to
LA.
date like a guy that sells insurance? Like what? What?
Love that.
Okay, hot.
Yeah.
I mean, that feels. What are your big three?
Wait. What, are you not going to date somebody that sells insurance?
No, I'm gonna date someone that sells insurance. I actually prefer a guy that's out of the industry, if I'm being quite
Right.
honest. Like I don't. The last person that I was talking to that I thought was gonna work out that didn't work out, he was an engineer, and I thought that was really hot. But like,
A smarty pants.
yeah, but then he was like, I like someone who's like very passionate about what they do.
Okay, but this is the thing though. Do you like a creative?
Oh, I do. I love a beanie wearing nigga that looks like he's from Brooklyn
Mhm.
and might steal my credit.
Mm-hmm.
But like also, there's just something about it. I do have a type. Like I know I have a type. Like I do like a creative. I
Yeah.
do. But I
Because
want
creatives are insane.
It's true. They are.
As
insane.
a creative,
are.
I can say it. Like
They
they are crazy.
Same.
They're crazy.
But I'd rather have someone, if they're gonna be in the industry, like I'd rather have them be like a publicist.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like they understand
like
our
in their
work.
industry adjacent.
Yes, industry adjacent. Like let them like understand what we do so we don't have to explain it. But they know how to show up when we need to, like, for them to like show up in the spaces that we need to occupy.
We need so much.
I mean,
We need so much.
honestly.
But I do understand what you're saying though, because when people will ask me this all the time, like, would you date like a guy with a normal job? I'm like, yeah, of course. Like,
Yeah.
what is why?
A job is a job.
Why wouldn't I?
In this economy?
Yes, but there is something to understanding
Yeah.
the business. Like, there's something to understanding. I need to go to this red carpet tonight
Mhm.
and talk to this many people.
Yeah.
And then I need to go to this after party. I'm just going to say hello. Like there's all these like little nuanced things that if you're not in the business, you may not understand
Do you
or even
test
be
a
able to
guy?
handle.
Do you like bring a guy to like a work thing?
No.
Oh, see, I do. I got invited to a private like
Do you know
arts
how risky it
exhibit.
is to outside claim a man?
I have to do it though. You have to okay. So I got invited to an art exhibit.
You live on the edge.
It was a private like situation. It was like it was very intimate, and I was like, I just need to see how he's going to dress because I will get a full ick if he shows up like a hot ass.
Living in terror of your man's next outfit is not an experience I can tolerate. Like, oh no, like no one
You have
understands
to do it.
me.
You have to
What
like
do you
test him.
mean? What if you step? How?
I don't know what I would have done if he would have come in like, I don't know, like ankle boat shoes. I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. But he showed up in all
Thank you
black.
for understanding, because the judgment I get when I talk about this, I'm like, you do not understand. Sometimes I cannot be there to dress you.
No.
What are you going to wear?
That's what I'm saying. It's an important piece because we're going to pull it together. Like we're going to have a look, and I need the person that's going to be with me to also pull it together.
Compliments matter.
And so you have to test. I even if it's like a small thing, it's not like a full industry thing where like people you work with are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But I took him to this art exhibit at downtown, and it was only 12 people, and so I was like, okay, this is like cool. This museum was taking photos of the event, told my business all on the Instagram account. I am in a full photo with this man that I couldn't even share the photos because I said, wow, y'all done clocked my tea. Like, why would you ever post anybody? And so I was like, maybe I can't do this, but I still feel like you need to test it. Like maybe I'm chaotic in that way. Maybe it's necessary.
That is absolutely chaotic. I'm telling you, it's chaotic.
We have to, because how else are we gonna know?
I mean, but there's a certain
3 months in is too late. I need to know in like 2 or 3 dates in if you can handle it.
3 dates?
Yeah. Oh, am I the problem?
No, I mean,
Damn.
I'm trying not to be judgy.
I don't know. Your tone is giving very judge.
It's giving very judge. So I'm gonna
and I'm just high key trying to survive.
I'm gonna check myself because I know that again, I'm an extremist. So there is, if I see you out with a man, and we are on our 3rd date, and this is at an event, phone home, call, check on me. I'm falling apart. Okay.
I mean, well, yes, actually, that actually
falling apart.
Completely explains the time I was in 12 dating. It was a moment where I was like, we went on our first day, and I was like, hey, am I touch deprived? Like, have I like never experienced intimacy before? Because I was literally kind of washed up in it, and then I quickly realized that he was love bombing me just to like change it all. But it's,
How do you find healthy love though?
I don't know. Let me call Oprah. I have no clue. I'm still trying to figure it out because I've only been in like one real like long-term relationship, and that was like 5 years. It was fresh out of college.
Mm-hmm.
We moved here together. Obviously did not end well. And I've just been kind of dating folks and having like real like friends with benefits situationships since then. But now I've kind of gotten to the moment where I've like, all right, I've locked in career-wise. I feel like I'm in a place where I turned 32 in July. I'm like, I kind of want to start being intentional about dating and maybe finding a partner. I don't know what that looks like. And so I think I'm still trying to figure it out while also still like checking in on myself because, it's hard in these streets. Like you will end up blaming yourself and being like, oh, there is something wrong with me. There's something on my forehead that says absolutely not. And I've had to like unlearn a lot of that thinking and belief about myself.
Do you feel like you fully love yourself?
Oh, too personal, sis. I think I do fully love myself, or I love the versions that I can be at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel it right now because I feel like I have had moments especially when it comes to romance and intimacy, and especially when it comes to like the relationship with my body, where I felt like I've had to change myself. Like I'm like, oh, you're only going to be able to connect with someone unless you lose weight. And I have now gotten to the mindset where I'm like, actually, that's not true, sis. You can pull anybody. You've done it. It's about if that person wants you and you're deserving of someone that won't keep you in a gray area, that will completely lean in and tell you that they want you and actively show you that. And so I'm like, I do love myself, short answer. But I think it's also a process of like always battling that internal voice that is telling you otherwise.
Yeah, and I think everybody deals with those insecurities, but it's really like as I've gotten older, and the more boundaries I set up for myself and the journey that, I go on of changing. Cause like your early 30s, I'm 38. So like
Yeah.
your early 30s are very different than your late 30s are very different than your 20s. And like so many different things change in your environment with your friends and
Yeah.
your business and like just the things that are a priority to you that you have to love yourself at every different version.
Yeah.
And to me, the biggest thing about loving yourself is forgiving yourself
Mm.
because you can only make the decisions that you make with the information that you have at that time. Like when we think of the things that we did when we were younger that like maybe you regret,
Yeah.
like obviously you would not make that decision
Yeah.
again. Like, of
Yeah.
course you wouldn't make that decision
Yeah.
again, but you were only doing the best that you could in that particular moment. And even if you thought this was a bad decision at that time that you were making it, it's still all you had the capacity to do. And for me, like forgiving myself for decisions that, because I'm just very, very critical of myself.
Same.
And I think forgiving myself was something that I had to learn to do in order to really embrace who I am. Because I deal with this all the time with people where they're like, I always say people like the idea of me rather than the reality.
Mm.
Because they're like, oh my God, you're so amazing. You have this personality. Like, where do you think this fucking personality came from? I've been through hell.
Yeah.
hon. Like, sis, the personality came from the trauma. Like,
Yeah.
so that's why it's so funny.
This
Like,
for
this is
survival
where the jokes
techniques.
are from. Like, hello. So like you have to take all of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's also something where I'm like, I've realized how much I was like navigating in conditional love with so many relationships that I was in versus like unconditional love. And like even like platonic like friendships. Like I've had a couple, like I feel like I've only had like a couple in my entire life like friendship breakups, but they were like tough, especially like in my like late 20s, early like 30s that I'm in
Friendship
now.
breakups are harder than relationship breakups.
Oh, absolutely. And I realized a lot of times in that coming out of that, I'm like, yeah, I think both of us we weren't feeling safe with each other, but then I also feel like this wasn't a space of unconditional love. Like it wasn't, and I'm like, I've had to completely disconnect from anything that doesn't feel unconditional. Like you should be able to accept me at all of the different layers of who I am to really be like, yes, I love who Ryan is.
Mhm.
And if you can't, like I've had to like even low key like at one point in time cut off my mom because I grew up very religious and she was not accepting of my identity and she didn't understand it and she didn't know how to raise a queer Black kid. And oftentimes even like now we're in a better place, but even then I've had to challenge her of saying like, I can't I can't just exist around you and not say that I'm queer. I can't exist around you and not have you accept my he they pronouns. Like I need you to, if you're gonna love me, it has to be unconditionally. You can't just want me to be here just because I'm your only child and like that's just a thing. Like we have to be able to talk about everything. No more brushing things under the rug. And it's been a challenge for me, but I'm happy that I'm setting those boundaries because it's helping me input that into other aspects of my life that has really been helpful.
That's good. That's very
Really been
powerful to do,
helpful.
especially with your parent. Like,
Oh, for sure. And it's still something, but I'm like, I had to one, meet my mom where she was at because she technically is kind of grieving. She's like grieving a life that she thought was going to be my life. She
mhm.
thought when she had me, she thought she was going to have this son that was going to marry a woman and like get married and do all the things. And I feel like I've been able as an adult be able to kind of see her outside of just being my mom and as a woman. And I've understood a lot of like I've been finding out more about like family dynamics and who hates each other and the drama and all the things. And it's just really kind of like made me show up differently and also see her differently and see she's a caretaker to my grandmother and she holds so much and she's still willing to ask me certain questions. She's asked me about pronouns being in her, professional email and is that important? And I'm like, that's a step forward for her. It might
Yeah.
not be the largest thing, but that's a door that's being cracked open and that I need to like lean into instead of holding resentments because it's not perfect. Like
Right.
I've had to meet her where she is.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm okay
love
with
isn't
that.
perfect, It's I think it's a process for everyone, but it's good that you're being gracious with her and that she wants, to learn. Cause
Yeah.
I mean, just, to take it full circle to what we were talking about earlier, I think I am with you where I don't have the patience to talk to people who aren't trying to learn.
Period.
But
Not at this big age.
no, and I'm not a tremendously gracious person. I'm an incredibly impatient person. I really don't.
Stand. I stand.
I really
You're
don't
a
have-
woman who knows who she
I
is.
really don't have a lot of time for it. I don't. But I do believe that when presented with new information,
Yeah.
you need to adjust your thinking. I have had to do that in my life. I hope to always continue to do that because that's fundamentally what learning is. And I, as an intellect, believe in getting new information and applying it. And even if it's something that is against what I currently believe, I need to evaluate that and be at the very least, open to discussions about what that means.
Yeah.
And I'm very extremist. So like sometimes things are just hard for me to hear. I'm like, I don't fucking care. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to hear it.
Yeah.
And I think for
To
all
grow.
of us
Yeah.
to grow. And that's just important. And while I don't believe that we should give any kind of grace to bigots and morons and, people who are fundamentally standing on stupidity
Yeah.
as their identity, which I don't know who told them that was cute, but it's not.
Honestly.
But
Please.
people can get presented with really dramatic information and learn. Now, it's not everyone's job to educate you,
Yeah.
But we do have platforms, and sometimes I know for me, like I'm a domestic violence survivor, so I've talked a lot about domestic violence, and while it is very traumatizing and very difficult and triggering sometimes to hear and see people talk so blatantly wrong about it, I do feel like because I've put myself in a position to be an educator, if you will, or to be an advocate or an ally or voice, I do have to have the patience to walk people through certain steps.
Sure.
Now, I protect myself when I see somebody is not listening to me or is not even taking the tiniest little bit of steps to educate themselves on something that they might be like, okay, I have a question about this.
Yeah.
But I do have to remind myself, like, everyone doesn't have this experience that I've had.
Yeah.
Or they don't have the proximity of it to be empathetic.
Yeah.
So if
I didn't even think it was possible to have any other perspective. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like I try to practice that in the spaces that are necessary for
I totally agree. I mean, I think that's sort of the kind of thing that we sign up for when we start to have a platform and start to do this public facing work that we do. Like, we have to understand the responsibilities of existing in the spaces that we do and making sure that we're not the last, we're not the only, and that there's so many people who are coming forth and doing the same thing. Like, a lot of times people, they forget about the blueprints, but being a blueprint is actually very special because you're actually building this thing that people are going to be able to exist and live in and feel free and happy with.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about doing this in this like hodgepodge of a career that I've been able to build for myself, because it's important. And me existing the way that I do fully in the body, in the emotion, in the feeling, and in this person that I am, I know that is hopefully going to be the guiding light for someone else moving forward. And that's all I could really ask for in this space because I needed a me growing up.
Yeah.
I literally needed a me. And we had like Andre Leon and we had these people that I looked up to. But in this modern time, we need so many beautiful, diverse voices and queer and trans experiences to be at the center. So we're not the only ones here.
So tell me about the podcast.
Yes. Okay. I love For High Key so much. I hope all the listeners listen and come over. It is a podcast with me, Benjamin O'Keefe, Evie Oddly from Drag Race Season 11 winner. If you love drag, come on over. We're talking about everything. When I met the folks over at Spoke and we were just talking about like needing more queer Black voices in the space of audio and just in space of like entertainment media, we were saying there was a space that needed to be filled. And I had been a part of this process of getting this kind of like together for about 2 years. We were in development mode for about 2 years. And then they shopped it and they found a home at iHeart and they were like, yes, we want this because it's 3 bold, queer Black voices. We're all so different. And we're having conversations around big ideas and we're interviewing some of the some really beautiful voices that and faces that you may know, but also ones that you need to know. And we kind of been describing it as like, all right, you go to a house party and you connect with some folks, and you're like, you might be a little drunk, but y'all are all in a corner, like just talking and have a real good conversation. And you leave that party and being like, oh, I actually want them to be friends in real life. Like I want to know these people, and that's what high key here is. Like high key is all about, right? High key is the space where you can be a part of the conversation. We want to be able to join the conversation, but also lead it. And so I don't know. I'm very, very excited. We're about 3 episodes in, and it's been eating. It's been eating. They just like this show. We get real personal. Oversharing is a whole thing.
There has been, I don't believe it in oversharing in that way. So there has been some sharing.
Oh my goodness.
No, I love it. It's very funny. It's very like the energy between the three of you is so good. And I'm very excited
Which is
for
crazy
everyone
because
to
we
go
didn't know
check
each
it
other
out.
before they cast us together, and we did about like 3 pilots, and the energy was just like off the chart. We were like, "Whoa, this feels like lightning in a
That's
bottle."
the best thing.
I
Like,
know.
You know, you don't want to square peg, round hole, whatever you're into, obviously. But like, you know,
That sounds fun. It does.
whatever floats your boat. But I do think that when it works smoothly, it's the best chemistry. So I'm really excited for you guys. So make sure that you guys go check out High Key, follow,
Yes.
subscribe, support. Thank you so much for joining us, Ryan.
This was great.
You know, your new sister in Christ, your first straight friend.
Thank you. Please.
During Pride Month, you know,
This
of
is
all
history.
No, I really appreciate you, girl. Thank you for coming by.
Thank
And
you.
blessings too personal.
Can you please
and
come on High Key? I would love to have you.
Absolutely, anytime that you want me,
work.
I'm
Yeah,
there.
they need this. over here.
100%. And make sure you follow Ryan at the Slay God, GAWD, of course, the only way it's spelled. And I'm very excited for you. So make sure you go check out High Key too.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Loved that chat with Ryan Mitchell. Make sure you go and follow him on social media at the Slay God, GAWD, and check out his podcast, High Key. It's time for Never Too Personal. If you want to be a part of the show, email toopersonalpodcast@gmail.com. You can send in a voicemail, you can just send in an email, or you can DM us at toopersonalshow on IG. This one is from IG. We had someone respond to our IG story, and they asked, what are the signs you should look for to know if a girl likes you? So I'm very sad that I cannot tag this creator because I hate quoting people's work and not being able to tag them. But he does these interviews in the library. You've probably seen them. They go super viral. And he's like whispering the interview. And the person he is interviewing whispers back to him. So he's talking to, I think she's like a relationship expert. And he asks her, how do I know if someone's into me? And she just basically responds like, because they act like they're into you. And she says everything so matter of fact, like everything that he's asking her is like the most obvious and simple response. But I mentioned that interaction, and please tag them if you see it, because I feel bad not being able to say their handle. But if someone acts like they're into you, then generally they're into you. If they are avoidant, if they're kind of playing games, if they're making you feel uncomfortable, if they're not being responsive, if they're only hitting you when they want something, they're probably not into you. Now, I know women, we can be very complicated and hard to understand and moody and emotional and hormonal and all those things. But when I like someone, they know that I like them. And I don't really jump through hoops to pretend like I don't like them or play any of those games. Also, keep in mind, I'm 38 years old and I barely have time to be doing this right now. So I'm certainly not going to be playing games with someone that I'm interested in. I can't speak for all women, generally don't try to, but people in general, women, men, whoever, if they're into you, you will feel it. You shouldn't have to convince yourself that someone likes you. You shouldn't have to convince yourself that they're into you or ask yourself too many questions. Anytime that I start feeling insecure, anytime that I start feeling uncomfortable or unsafe, anytime I start feeling like, I'm probably doing a lot more than this person, I'm always texting them first, I'm always calling them first, that means that they're not really that into me. Or they have someone else that they're also into and they don't have enough time to manage both of us or all of us or whatever it is. But generally you should feel like a person is into you, and it's really that simple. I'm gonna find this thing and post it on my social and share it with this person that sent this question. But the signs you should look for to know if a girl likes you is that simply she acts like she likes you. She is receptive to you asking her out. She is interested in the things that you're talking about. She is asking you questions about your life. She is responding to your text messages and answering your calls. She is trying to see you when you want to see her. It's really just that simple. If you try to convince yourself of it, they probably don't like you. But this is a good question. So make sure you continue to send in your questions to personalpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us at our socials at 2Personal Show. Make sure you hit subscribe. And thanks for joining us this week.